All right, let's get our Facebook folks in here. We can start the show. Rocking and rolling. I hear some crying upstairs. That's no good. Well, too bad, too late. We're locked in. All right, welcome in, welcome in. Good morning, good morning. It is Monday, July 21st, 7:40 Mountain Time. I am Nick Kendall, joined by Dylan. Dylan, good to see you. How was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? Did you get outside? Did you have some adult beverages? What was going on?
I was pretty lazy. I went and saw Superman for the second time because my girlfriend hadn't seen it, and I was very excited to go see the second time. I'm a big fan of it. But other than that, just kicking my feet up and getting some relaxation time in.
Nice. Well, that's good. Yeah, I went up to visited some friends' parents' house up in Bellingham, Washington, which is really, really beautiful. A really beautiful spot up there, about an hour and a half north of Seattle. And then yesterday, I visited some friends. They had a rooftop barbecue downtown Seattle. Took the little guy. He's flying around. Unfortunately, he's touching everything, so he thought the drain spout was a blast and kept trying to put his hands in there, which is not conducive to a hygienic eating environment. But it's okay. He's obsessed with cars right now, so he really loves sitting and looking down and pointing at every single car that drove by, which in a busy city is many. So I was like, yeah, it's still a car. Good job, buddy. But no, we're doing okay. We're having fun, and yeah, it's camp week coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Broncos, since we talked last on Wednesday, immediately the Broncos after signing Jade Barron and RJ Harvey. So I think it was David Carmelo comes in the show, has a lot of good questions for us. Appreciate that with super chats. Appreciate that as well. Asked like, what do you expect from the Broncos? What's your biggest priority? I'm like, the rookies getting in, getting signed, and getting them integrated in the system, and I expect it soon. I think he asked a follow-up question about should we be worried about it. I'm like, I'm not worried about it. They're going to get it done, and almost immediately afterwards, they signed both those guys. So happy to have the rookie class officially locked and loaded. Congrats to RJ Harvey getting some guaranteed money in the third year of his contract, which I think is not typical. Something the Broncos haven't done, hasn't been the case for a lot of teams. So he did get a little bit more guarantees than baseline, but not a fully guaranteed contract. So good to have Barron and Harvey locked up. Now we shift our focus to obviously training camp, but the onslaught of free agents for the Broncos in 2026. Obviously, we talked a lot about them. Zach Allen, Cortland Sutton, John Franklin Myers, Malcolm Roach. A lot of big names for the Broncos. Important pieces that make up a lot of the identity on both sides of the ball, specifically, and Nick Bonito, of course, specifically the defensive front.
Yeah, and that's going to be key is that defensive front. Hopefully, the Broncos do want to keep them around because that will be the lifeblood of this defense. Obviously, you have Patrick Surtain securing the secondary. You got a bunch of other pieces in the secondary that are great, but you'd love to pair that with a pass rush, with a stifling run defense. So if they can keep some continuity, much like the offensive line where we've seen continuity, that's just going to make this defense even better over time.
Yeah, it should, and to some extent. I think the defensive line's a little different because it's such a rotational position that you have to constantly feed it, and I don't think you can sign everybody constantly, retain everybody. Like, would it be great if we could bring back all of Roach, Bonito, John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen? Yes. Does it make sense to sign them all to big second and third contracts and continue to get older, more worn down, rather than pouring more resources, letting some young guys, Savion Jones, Hugh Robinson, Jonah Ellis, start to work their way up through the system, especially if they, take a starting spot and run with it. Defense, they're both trenches, obviously, but just how many usable bodies you require across the defensive line, it is probably the most like meat grinder churn position in the NFL because there's so many snaps available and you just have to continuously feed the beast that is that defensive line in the pass rush. So we'll see. It's going to hurt to lose any of those guys, but it's better than the situation the Broncos have found themselves in where it's been, wow, we don't have anybody worth paying, so we better retain these mediocre players. We're going to lose some useful pieces here. Hopefully that means compensatory picks for the Broncos down the line, thinking big picture here, but that's next. And I'll be curious to see if we get any contracts at this point. It was a year ago. We got Surtain's contract extension announced and Quinn Miners. So could we have one as soon as, heck, Wednesday? Very possible. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we're talking about somebody a week from now signing a new contract with the Broncos, if not multiple players.
Yeah, exactly. And like you mentioned, it is kind of meat grinder, right? You're going to need a lot of bodies there on the defensive line, but that's why you draft a Q Robinson, why you draft a Savion Jones. And some people thought, especially Q Robinson, was a weird kind of pick. Why do we need another linebacker? Well, you still got to pay Benito. We'll see how he looks this year. Jonathan Cooper obviously has been signed already, but does he still play to the level that he did last year?
Hmm.
And obviously he's got special teams ability as well. But Savion Jones, you got John Franklin Myers, he is still unsigned, re-upped, I should say, and Malcolm Roach as well. So got to keep that position strong, especially the interior defensive line,
Hmm.
because someone's got to eat into those snaps for Zach Allen. He can't be playing a million snaps every year. That's just going to break him down, and he'll be less effective.
Yeah, outside of quarterback, defensive line is probably the second most important positional group. Maybe the offensive line, you can go either way, but I born and bred college football, I guess, and a lot of times the team with the most superstars across the defensive line are the ones who are holding hardware at the end of the season. So got to keep them strong. 4 deep at edge, 5 deep on the interior. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Shiloh coming in. There's no rotation for Shiloh. He's starting all snaps. Good morning, everyone. I'd love to see Noah Fant back as a redemption story, but logically he's not playing special teams. We need Launer to get snaps, see what the potential is there. And we're going to talk a little bit about former Denver Broncos first round pick, number 20 overall in that 2019 class in Noah Fant. So we'll get into it here. We got Conga saying there's a seagull in my yard with its wings practically torn off. Oh, Conga, they maybe call animal control. I don't know. That seems like a humanitarian. The humane thing to do would be to good night, Mr. Siegel. So, Jason Bonnie, good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you. If its wings torn off, I don't know if there's any nursing it back to health, but I'm country to some extent for that one. It's quality of life. Chase Wellner, howdy y'all. Good to see you. Brian Dunn, good morning, Nick, Eric, and all of Broncos country. Really great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Brian Dunn, I would pass on Fant. Didn't know about the special teams. We don't need another third string tight end. We'll get into it here in just a second. First, we got to say hello to Ralph. Says, good morning, guys. I hardly ever make a live show anymore. Well, it's great to have you, Ralph. Love the big 69 jersey. I don't know if that's a joke jersey or if that's McGlinchey, but either way, I am here for it. Says, I've been busy lately and was curious if anything interesting happened in rookie camp. Hadn't heard too much other than you get Barron and Harvey signing, and also again the baseline from where we're sitting is like no injuries, no arrests. If you can come out of camp or the offseason leading up to the year with none of that going on, then slight success. All the other stuff, Q Robinson's killing the backup undrafted, probably never going to make the team offensive tackles every snap. Well, okay, what does it look like when he's playing starting caliber guys? It's nice. It's better he's doing that than he's not. I'm not putting too much weight on it other than I'd like it rather than not have it. But right now, no injuries and guys signed, and it's a good thing. Trust the process, trust the system. I feel like we're all pulling in the same direction in Broncos facilities I feel like that for sure for the first time in a long time. I've felt a little bit like that last season, but it was like with the rookie quarterback stuff and like moving on from Russell Wilson, the dead cap hit, not a lot of investments on the defense. It's like, are we really all pulling in the same direction? We're getting some momentum underneath there. Definitely feel like that this season. I've said it on the show, Dylan. I'm as optimistic about the direction of this Broncos team on the whole as I was entering the 2014 season. Because if you remember, the end of 2014 went out with a whimper. Is the people leaving? What's the offense going to look like? Peyton Manning, are they going to marry the concept of the under center zone stuff with Kubiak with the shotgun stuff with Peyton Manning? We're going to see pistol. Obviously, it didn't work out very well for the offense. Well enough with the great defense, but I feel super optimistic about just the overall pieces, the direction. We don't just have an adult in the room. We have somebody who knows what the heck they're doing, and they are empowered to make the right decisions.
Absolutely. And you just look at the holy trinity of GM, head coach, and quarterback, and things are looking up, obviously.
And owner. Let's make it up. What's even
And
better? What's the fourth one?
quartet, maybe?
I guess. Oh, there you go. I'm a violinist. I should know that one. There you
go. But obviously, you still have a small sample size with Bo Nix, but the signs are encouraging. There's still some room to grow, and especially with some new weapons in this offense, whether it be through free agency with Evan Ingram or the draft, RJ Harvey and Pat Bryant. So things are looking up there. But like you mentioned, pretty great to not hear anything out of training camp because, as we know, Sean Payton kind of likes to keep things under wraps. So if you do hear something, it would be an injury or an arrest. So thankfully, none of that's happening, and this team and this culture is being cultivated, and you love to see that, especially heading into year 3 with Sean Payton.
Yeah, and just as like content creators, it'd be great if we were getting a little bit of clips here or there, a little bit of information. But I'll tell you what, I would much rather have the tight lips, nothing getting in, nothing getting out, paired with good football and teams that are competent in many ways versus the open access jokes around and live streaming essentially that we had with Nathaniel Hackett paired with just an unbearably inept product on the field. So I'll take it at the end of the day. If that's the trade, then I will definitely take it. Gatorade Gaming, morning, Nick and Dylan. What's good, Broncos country? We're good. We're hanging out. It's almost already the end of July. We're doing okay. We're kicking. We're alive. Good to see you. See Brian Dunson here. Great to have you here. Peter Middleton, where are you at? Are you in Turkey right now, Peter? What's going on? Always appreciate you coming in. Oh, it's a stink jersey. I think we talked about this before. That is even better. Appreciate that. Hopefully you don't have some of the. Hopefully it's not too authentic. If you catch my drift on the stink jersey there, because that would be a problem. Michael Ronquillo with the stars. Great to see you. Thank you so much, Michael. Truly, really do thank you so much. He says, good morning, Nick and Dylan and Broncos for breakfast. Go, Bo Broncos. Appreciate you. And Chase says he's not bullish on Noah Fant. Tight end room behind Ingram is rather poor. I can see the argument. So topic of the show today, Noah Fant is released leading up to training camp, which is kind of interesting, from the Seattle Seahawks. He signed a pretty good contract 2-3 seasons ago. He's typically been around the top 12 in statistical output for tight ends. That might be, as we talk a lot about tight end on here, that might be more of an indictment on just overall passing yardage output or receiving yardage output from the tight end position, as opposed to, Noah Fant being great. Kind of feels like, again, I've talked about on here a lot, the linebacker position, where it's like there's like 3 to 8 good ones, and then after that it's like generic, like war zero kind of player. That's just how it is with tight end. That's how it is with linebacker as well. And he was released. They drafted AJ Barner 2 years ago from Michigan. He was their second tight end to Colston Loveland out there, who is obviously a top 10 pick this season. And then you had a top 10 pick. And then you had them draft Elijah Arroyo, who a lot of people compared to Noah Fant coming out of the draft out of the University of Miami. He's had a lot of health issues. So Noah Fant's gone. They cleared a little bit off the books. And Arroyo must be looking good out here in my neck of the woods with Seattle. So Fant, a free agent, still a useful player. Definitely erratic, hit or miss kind of player, but an athletic profile and somebody to wherever he goes, I think he's gonna be a useful tight end too for them, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And listen, you look at this tight end room for the Broncos. Outside of Evan Ingram, not very inspiring. Obviously, Troutman is mid. We'll call it mid. And after that, you got guys like Nate Adkins, whatever, kind of fine. Not really eye-popping. Lucas Kroll, the OTA's darling that everyone was up in arms about last year. And then Caleb Lohner was mentioned earlier, I believe, by Shiloh. And while I'm very intrigued by what he could bring potentially a couple years down the line, right now I don't think you're necessarily stealing snaps from him. So adding in a guy like Noah Fant, like you mentioned, athletic, obviously not an amazing blocker similar to Ingram, but another weapon in this tight end room, I don't think you can really pass on him necessarily, just because anything's an upgrade at this point for the tight end room, and any other weapons that the Broncos think would help Bo Nix in his development, making that jump in year 2, I'm certainly not opposed to bringing Fant back for a reunion.
Yeah. No, he's one of the top 20 tight ends in football. He's year by year breakdown, typically gets around 50 receptions. Had his best statistical seasons with Denver in 2020 and 2021. 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 670 yards, 60 receptions. So again, he's somebody that he can be a useful piece for the Broncos. And on paper, if you could bring him in I think it wouldn't be something that I wouldn't be against necessarily. I think it helps further detach Evan Ingram from the line of scrimmage. It sounded like in OTAs he was playing as much, if not more, slot usage as he was compared to in line. So not having to have him be somebody who is your F tight end or having to play 12 personnel with him attached all the time, just giving him a little bit more movement. The real question for me on this is, what does the contract look like to bring him in? Because right now you have a bunch of guys that, like, would I rather bring in Noah Fant or line up and sign Nick Benito, Zach Allen, John Frankenmeyer's, Cortland Sutton to a new contract? Noah Fant would be nice. I mean, if you guys watch back 2-3 weeks ago when Eric and I graded the rooms, I think Eric gave the tight end room a D minus. I gave them a D plus, and it was the worst room on the offense because we're not really excited about a lot of the pieces. Excited about Evan Ingram, but again, is he tight end? Is he wide receiver? Where does he actually fall in this? But I just think he'll probably cost more on the open market than Denver should be willing to pay because he is still just 27 years old. There's not a lot of even serviceable. There's serviceable tight ends, but he's young, still potential, still athletic. All of that. Tight ends can take a little bit. So I guess what I'm most shocked about is they didn't find a way to trade him, even for a late pick. Like if it was a 2027 sixth, to get the contracts off the books. I'm a little bit, something smells funny with that.
Yeah, that is quite interesting, especially Seattle's been known to move around and get picks for players like this. But like you mentioned, the price is what it's going to come down to because you do have a handful of players, at least 5 or 6, that you're looking to re-sign. So if you could bring him on the cheap, that's great. If not, hey, we'll stick with what we got at tight end, see what we can squeeze out of that dish rag, as it were, with the level of talent behind Evan Ingram.
Yeah. So again, I'm not necessarily against it. I don't think that there should be any real bad. I mean, I don't know Noah Fant personally, both at Iowa at the same time. I loved watching him and Hawkinson on those Iowa teams together. That was pretty awesome. But I don't think necessarily there should be bad blood. It's a new coaching regime here, completely new offensive staff. You did have George Payton be the one who traded him away, but I don't think that whoever's offering him the money makes sense. The one kicker I have here is that from where we sit, definitely from where Eric sits, we're not very in on Adam Troutman as a piece. And I don't think there is anybody higher on Adam Troutman than this coaching staff and Sean Payton. I mean, they love Adam Troutman. So that's the other reason that, I mean, I would be interested, again, still really young, athletic. What does the contract look like? I think he would be an upgrade over Troutman, and definitely as far as like making things happen. Let's say he's just, a block and detach kind of tight end on some plays. Infinite more potential to do stuff after the catch than Adam Troutman with the ball in space. Granted, you wish Fant played a little bigger sometimes in space, a little bit more nuance versus I always called him the old school controller where A is sprint and then off is that's all he does. There's no wiggle. It's just downhill throttle. It's fast or not. But I think he'd offer a lot more as a pass catcher after the catch than Adam Troutman. But Sean Payton loves Adam Troutman. This offensive staff loves Adam Troutman. Bringing in Noah Fant to displace Troutman, I'd be fine with it. Troutman's just whatever to me, but they like him in-house, and there must be something to that because, again, trust the offensive staff, trust the coaching staff, and they love Troutman. So it's not going to I don't think it's going to happen. I'd be pretty shocked.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there's a lot of love for Troutman from Sean Payton, and he's got loyalty to his guys, maybe to a fault in this case, but like you mentioned, there's not really much else that the Broncos have. So, they're just going to be loyal to the guys that they have now. Hopefully, we can see some more development from some of these guys, although I'm not really too inspired by the room. Like I mentioned, Lucas Kroll, don't really care for Adam Troutman, whatever. Nate Atkins at least has some somewhat H-back type ability, but and then there's Loner. Obviously, I'm very intrigued by that, but that's like a couple years down the line kind of proposition, unless he miraculously takes some big steps. I've heard some good things. I remember back when they had was it rookie OTAs or whatever, and like at least mentally he was seeming to grasp things. But getting on the field and putting that onto the field is a totally different beast. So gonna have
Yeah.
to wait on that one.
Yeah, no, we got Samantha Ann coming in here. Love to shout out to our Mile High Huddle ladies. Hope you're doing well, Samantha. Hope you had a good weekend, and we appreciate the comment. Says, does Ingram even line up as a true tight end? He's going to play a little bit of slot. I think they might even isolate him sometimes as an X. You're going to see him as an H back probably sometimes. I'm really curious to see if you almost ever see him line up as your standalone tight end as the Y, if you will, in 11 personnel. What does that even look like at that point? You might as well just go 10 with no true tight end on the field and detached, I guess. But they're going to move him around. I I'm really curious to see what his usage looks like. That's one of my number one questions entering the season is just what the alignment looks like and how does the personnel shake out with Ingram. We know that Sean Payton loves to rotate his offensive skill position, so there's going to be snaps to be had. I don't think there's going to be just a primary like when the Broncos had Welker, Julius Thomas, Sanders, and DT. It's like, oh well, 11 personnel all day. Like we know what we're doing here. No Sean Marino, whatever. I'm expecting to see a lot more rotation with those guys, especially because you don't have known starters at a lot of those spots other than Cortland Sutton. But yeah, right now, is he going to be more slot? Is he going to be more F? It will be curious to see how Sean Payton utilizes him lineup wise. But as a true tight end, inside outside, I think it's going to be probably 50-50 split. Troy coming in here says just supporting. Well, thank you so much. We're just reading. Says glad the pot stirring ranking dead period is over. Looking forward to camp news. Have a great show. Honestly, Troy, I think that maybe this is just me believing the best in some people here. I don't think it is pot stirring. I just think it's the natural reaction from fan bases when you have the NFL at large. A lot of people, and they're not always going to be right. They're going to be imperfect. If you took like an average across all the things, you'd probably get the best accurate list. But every team's fan base is going to have people on both extremes of it. Most of the time it'll probably be they're ranking them way too low, but every once in a while you have the pure haters in the fan base who are like, oh, that's way too high. What are they talking about? But I don't think it's personally a pot stirring necessarily, but it's just the natural reaction when we get into these siloed groups talking about these things.
Absolutely. And you think about just when it is that dead period, that true dead period of the off season, you're going to hyper focus on whatever's put out there. And obviously we know PFF has had quite a few rankings that we've all disagreed with, but at the end of the day, I think we know Patrick Surtain, best corner in the league. Call me biased. I am. Who cares? We're Broncos fans at the end of the day. But it's all going to come out in the wash. We're going to see what happens on the field, and that's really what's going to be the true determining factor. And we know these guys are good, right? And at times we do overvalue them. I know, and maybe I'll catch a little strays for this, but there's I can't remember who put out the poll, but it was Bo Nix and the quarterbacks that fans believe that he's better than. And they were saying he's better than Dak Prescott right now, and he's better than this and that. And it's like that's a little bit projecting, right? And it's like you're more thinking about where you think he could be rather than where he is at. So fandom does play a big part in these rankings, and some justifiably so. But got to remember to temper our expectations here a little bit because we're fans, and at the end of the day, that it's fanatic. We're going to be a little crazy about the players that we love.
Yeah. Peter asked, what contract would you expect for Fant? I'd expect him to get somewhere. I mean, he might take he's still only 27, right? And tight ends can play to 35, and he's got athletic potential, hasn't been marred with injuries. So I think you maybe see a 1-year contract, but I'm thinking probably it's more 5 million, 6 million, and then he looks to up later on. But what do you think? I'm going to look up just the average tight end rankings. He should get paid somewhere like 25th. But maybe he wants just a 1-year contract to give him some options.
I could see a 1-year contract, like you mentioned. He is still very young, so hey, maybe a prove it deal, whether it's in Denver or somewhere else. In terms of range, anywhere between maybe 3 to 8 million, depending on what team's willing to pay him. Because obviously they weren't willing to trade for him unless Seattle didn't explore those options, which I highly doubt. But yeah, I guess somewhere in that range would make sense.
Yeah, you get like Colby Parkinson's making 7.5 million. That's probably a little bit on the high end. Zach Ertz 6.25, but he's 35 years old. I mean, he's almost a decade older than Fant. You got Tommy Tremble coming at 5.25 million. I'm guessing it's probably somewhere about 4.5 to 6. 1-year contract would be my assumption right now. And that's not a lot compared to the cap, but that could be the difference for a contract for the guys the Broncos have in-house that they need to re-sign. So I think that's probably where I'd rather allocate the money right now. We just have too many guys that it would be nice to have long-term stability and retention from versus Fant. Now, I'll knock on wood here. This isn't wood, but this is. So I'll knock on wood here. That's why I always do that part. Plastic folding table here. Be good for some flippy cup or something. A little too short for beer pong, I think. But no, I probably, unless there's an injury, again, I'll on wood again, then maybe that changes the perspective. But right now, even though the tight end room's weak, it's more set up for a long-term investment in the position as opposed to Noah Fant, floor raising kind of guy. But again, 27, athletic, maybe it would work out for him. I'm not cheering against him. We got Bossman Jay with 2 super chats here, $1, but then he hits us up with the question here as well. And he says, everyone, please tune in Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for the new Broncos Unchained. Well, thank you so much, Bossman Jay, for the super chat. And yeah, support everyone. We appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. You're giving Central, though, man. This is a Broncos podcast. You got to say 5 p.m. Mountain time. I'm out here Pacific. So we got to make sure we do translate it. So, and it also says, Fant's not the greatest blocker, but much more explosive than Troutman and Atkins. Somebody made a point earlier in here. It was a good one about the special teams ability of Atkins providing value. And I think Troutman's a little better blocker than Fant, but again, younger, more athletic, more perceived upside, not always necessarily, but I just, because Troutman's such a Sean Payton guy, I don't imagine them making a move to displace him. Let's say they lose out on Evan Ingram. They don't end up taking one of the top 3 tight ends in the draft, and we're sitting here with our you-know-what's in our you-know-what at the tight end position this year. It's like, oh, my God, Troutman and Atkins and Kroll, then there'd be a little bit more urgency. But you have some options right now, no doubt.
Yeah, and it's always good to have those options. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, there could be an injury, knock on wood, and you don't hope for that, but it could just be insurance as well. Maybe you just bring him in and see what he can do in training camp, unless he does find it, more money or more opportunity on another team. But it's always good to have those options. So something to keep in the back of your mind for sure, and especially with how the tight end room is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We got Ernie Mays coming in. Ernie's got a new profile picture. Looking good, Ern Dog. Hope you're doing well. It says Go Broncos Country only. Great to see you. And yeah, he said, there we go. Corrected the time there. Michael Ronquillo coming in here saying Nick Benito did mention during football camp that he said the Broncos and him have had talks about new contracts. He'll probably save this for Wednesday to some extent because just kind of what we've heard, anything going on there. But yeah, the Broncos are in a really interesting position, specifically across the defensive line and the edge rusher room. You're set to lose 3 of your top 4 interior defensive linemen after this season. Obviously, Roach is down the list, but he's a useful player. And we talk about people loving him. I mean, Roach might be one of the more beloved players in that Broncos locker room. They adore that guy. So got to love the big man with personality. Him and DJ Jones, both beloved players out there. But then to the edge room, Nick Benito is your best edge. He's not the best edge setter, but man, what he does, he's closer, fireball, 99, 100 plus coming out of the pen and can close games when you got the ability like that, or end drives with the ability like that. And that, I mean, that's the most valuable skill you can have on the outside of turnovers, the most valuable skill you can have on the defensive side of the ball. So he's going to get paid. But the Broncos on paper right now are just so deep with options and potential at the edge rush room. I mean, 5 deep for sure right now. What does that mean for the position long term? If we had Cooper and Benito lining up at the same time, I think it's probably an easier conversation of letting Cooper walk, even though he's another really good locker room glue guy. But you paid him, he's here, and then you have 3 cheap guys behind them. So it might end up being an interesting conversation down the line, especially if you do wind up paying Benito. Could you potentially float Cooper out there for somebody? This is assuming all your young guys hit though right now. So I mean, but I'm excited about him. Robinson, Ellis, Tillman. I mean, that's some quality depth. Nobody hounds on defensive depth more than we do on this show. Defensive line depth.
Absolutely, and you need that depth, especially on the defensive line and edge rusher, like you mentioned. I mean, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, solid starters, like them a lot. And you brought up turnovers. I mean, Nick Bonito, besides getting sacks, he got a couple pick sixes this year, and obviously you're not expecting that all the time, but that's a nice little added bonus in there, especially with his decent coverage ability and speed. But you did mention you got Jonah Ellis, you got Q Robinson waiting in the wings, you got DeAndre Tillman, who was a surprise last year. So that rotation is strong. Let's see who can take a step up and maybe, like you said, maybe you float out Cooper there if someone is playing up to that level, and you could save a little money there, save a little coin, and possibly get some draft picks out of it. But we don't want to worry about that right now. We'll just hope that Cooper plays very well and the guys behind him develop as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll save it a little bit here as well. But first, we're going to get to Ralph saying, hopefully, rookie tight end makes a splash this year. It would be great if you got anything from Caleb Lohner this season, but he was much more, I think, a stash and develop candidate. And I think he's probably, just late 7th round pick with the profile that he has. He's more likely to be somebody like we look back 5 years from now, and he's a trivia question that never did anything versus somebody who's making an impact, especially his rookie season. So stash, and hopefully you get something 2027, 2028. Maybe there's a small package there, but does he do enough where he's worth the active roster spot even? So I don't know. A lot can change, right? And I don't want to bet against the guy, and the Broncos saw enough to try to get him and not, risk him being an undrafted free agent. So you trust the staff and everything, but just statistically, late 7th round pick, you never know. Long shot to some extent, but it'd be great if he made a splash this year. Let's say he even comes out of camp and he makes enough splash plays that it's like we can't subject him to waivers in the practice squad. Some tougher decisions then, but that's a huge first step that we got to get to first.
Absolutely, and like you mentioned, it's going to be a couple of years, and that's fine. That's what those late round picks are for. And I know people are up in arms. Why would we take a basketball player primarily that hasn't seen much action as a football player? Well, Sean Payton sees something. Hey, maybe I can mold this guy. That's a true dart throw. Okay, that's what those late picks are for. And if he can develop, that's great. If not, it's a 7th round pick. It was your last pick in the draft. I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but the potential there is intriguing for sure, and especially in a room like we've talked all pod that could use an upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt on that one at all. So we're going to wrap it on up here. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us today, talking a little Broncos football on Monday morning, talking about Noah Fant. We'll get into the contracts a little bit more later this week as well, and camp starting here. So Dylan, any final thoughts as we wrap it on up here and get on out of here and start our Monday morning? Obviously, Noah Fant on paper, if the contract was cheap, but I don't think he hurts to bring in, raises the floor of the room a lot, in my opinion. If you can move on from Lucas Kroll, give a little bit of competition from Adam Troutman, maybe even further deploy Evan Ingram, I think it does help the room, but maybe not enough compared to what I would imagine the market will be for him, and potentially limiting yourself in terms of contract negotiations with more important guys that you need to retain.
Yeah, if the price is right, then so be it. Let's bring him in. Let's add some talent to this room. We need more dynamic, explosive plays, and I think Fant could bring that. But you mentioned you want to keep your own guys happy. You want to pay the guys who have earned it and who have been here, and keep that continuity that is so important. So the price is right. Go for it. But above all, I'm just ready for some Broncos football, man. We're right there. We're getting real close now.
Yeah. Right around the corner again. Did anybody hear anything from rookie camp? Got your guys signed, no injuries, no arrests. Let's continue that trend, because I don't know exactly how much we're going to be getting exactly from the Broncos training camp here. We'll get some and we'll share it. But, once training camp and the combined practices, that's where we start to get a little bit more valuable information. What we can get from camp, though, hopefully a depth chart, hopefully some rotations, and what the pecking order seems to be early on for some of these spots. But I'm happy to have it be a boring camp without the quarterback questions, without the Sean Payton questions, without any, Russell Wilson versus head coach stuff. Competent, boring, consistent, leading in the right direction, good football at the end of the day. Whatever formula leads to that, give me that.
Absolutely. And the best part is, you're not worried about quarterback. The only thing you're worried about is who's going to be wide receiver 2. Is Riley Moss going to come back and be good? There's plenty of things to look through in training camp, but nothing as dire as, oh gosh, is our new head coach, is he going to hit? Is our young quarterback, is he going to be any good? So a little more boring, like you mentioned, off season, but consistency can be a little boring.
I will take boring as long as it's a competent product at the end of the day. So a lot of fun. Good show. Appreciate everyone coming in with the super chats. Ralph, good to see you. Michael Ronquillo, of course. Troy Boer, Bossman Jay, Ralph again. God bless you. You guys are great. Appreciate you all coming in on this fine Monday morning, hanging out with us, talking some football. You make sure you guys are following us at Mile High Huddle. Also follow Dylan at Dylan Von Arks MHH. I'm at Nick Kendall MHH. We're also over at Mile High Huddle, of course, over on X, Twitter, whatever the heck you want to call it. I don't care. Mile High, you follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker says there underneath, the number one way you can hang out with us now that the season is right around the corner, training camp is upon us, season right around the corner, make sure you're subscribing to us, Mile High Huddle, over on YouTube. Oh, Todd, I'm sorry I missed you, Todd. I'll acknowledge you here. Just wrapping it up. You see you got in here a little bit late. Yeah, last year with Russell Wilson, dead cap, all of that. He also mentioned pooping on here too, so we'll get that in here, Todd. Good to see you. Speaking of pooping, the reason I need to go is because I hear an upset infant, and I don't want to leave toddler now for sure. Loves cars, loves throwing cars. That's not always the best. You better watch out for those. Got an arm on him though, that's for sure. Need to work on that lower body strength. He's got a future Iowa interior offensive line build. I fear, but maybe also love. So hard for hauling up the mountains. But yes, like, subscribe, share over on YouTube. Shout out again to all our super chat givers. Dylan, appreciate you coming in, hanging out with us this morning. We'll see if Eric is back. If not, it'll be you and I again Wednesday morning hanging out. So summer, man, it's a good time, and hopefully everyone's appreciating this before we really hit the ground running with the regular season just right around the corner. So appreciate everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.